Welcome to FACC TV. I'm Anne Ramirez.
And I am Don Orozco, and this afternoon we are fortunate enough to have with us the very first Filipino-American Assembly member in the state of California. It's no other than Assemblymember Rob Bonta.
Assemblymember Rob Bonta is the chairperson of the Health Committee, Public Employees Retirement and Social Security, and the Select Committee on the Status of Men and Boys of Color.
So join us and listen to what he is going to say on what our plans are in terms of providing services to the Filipino-American community. So welcome, Assemblymember Rob Bonta. And the reason we're here, I and Anna here, is to just discuss about your outlook for 2015 and what things are you up to for the rest of your term. And I believe this is your second term.
Yes. Yes, well, we're really excited about 2015. We're just starting the legislative session, which is a 2-year session, so we're in the very beginning of year 1 of the 2-year session for the beginning of my second term. And we're now putting together our bill package, which will represent our priorities for the year. We'll put together another bill package at the beginning of next year. But we're looking at a few really important areas. So this year, I have some new roles, which I'm really excited and proud of. One is I am the new chair of the Assembly Health Committee, so overseeing a broad range of issues that deal with health in the state of California. I continue to be the chair of the Public Employees Retirement Social Security Committee, and then I was also recently named one of the 2 chairs of the Select Committee on Boys and Men of Color, the status of boys and men of color. So 3 really important issue areas that are personally something that I'm personally passionate about, and so we're developing our package around our legislative package around some of the leadership roles that we have in those committees, and as well as some others. So the areas that we're looking at strengthening our Medi-Cal system, which is the system that takes care of our poorest Californians in need of health care. About 1/3 of Californians are on Medi-Cal, and we've had some major progress in terms of healthcare, increased healthcare coverage. About 2 years ago, there were 7 million Californians uninsured. Now there's only about 3 million uninsured. The number of folks in Medi-Cal has changed, has increased quite a bit, but now we need to make sure you get quality access to care. And we don't always have that, and part of that is because we have a low medical provider rate. It's one of the lowest in the country. It's we're not even near average of what other states do for their Medicaid program, so that will help increase access. So I have a couple bills that will really help strengthen our Medi-Cal system and increase coverage by increasing our Medi-Cal provider reimbursement rate. I'm also doing some work on early childhood education, trying to strengthen opportunities for young Californians before they get into kindergarten, to help make sure that they are prepared for success. Once they get to kindergarten, a lot of the success that you have in school and in college and career is based on how your brain forms in the first 4 years of life, and there are really disparate outcomes for low-income communities of color. So we're trying to provide greater opportunity and equity for some of our young Californians who've been left behind. Also always working on recidivism reduction and re-entry programs for the formerly incarcerated to have a second chance and be successful and rejoin our community as productive members of society, and to have a job and have housing and have health care and be able to support themselves and their families. So we have, in my view, far too many people in prison in this state, and we need to provide better supports when Californians who come out of prison are re-entering the community and trying to succeed. And then finally, among 4 of the areas that are our biggest issue areas this year, we're looking at, I've introduced a bill to provide stronger regulations on medical cannabis. And we since 1996, medical cannabis has been legal to use for patients in California, but we don't have a very strong regulatory system or regime around the use and the safety of the product and the medicine and its appropriate uses. So we're trying to really strengthen that this year. I really believe that we can do that. And then finally, something that I'm really excited about, the very first bill I introduced this year was AB 7, which would create Larry Itliong Day in the state of California to honor the great leader and champion in the Filipino community, Larry Itliong, who I believe has not gotten his due in terms of recognition and celebration of his life and legacy. And this would create a special day of recognition in California to honor Larry Itliong and his legacy and his service.
You know, that is something that we actually appreciate from you, Assemblymember Rob, because you've always been an advocate for Filipino American causes. And I believe one of the law that you actually introduced late last year was AB 123.
Yes.
Can you talk about AB 123 for a little bit?
Yes, AB 123 was one of the first bills I introduced. It was in my first year of my first term, and we were able to move that bill through the legislative process and get it signed. What it does is it requires that our public schools teach our children the contributions of Filipino Americans to the California farm labor movement. And that was not included as a required curriculum and subject matter to be taught to our California students. And when we introduced the bill, we wanted to make sure that was included, that we had a more inclusive approach to that chapter in history. A very exciting and important chapter in history in California, including the great leadership of Cesar Chavez and the United Farm Workers of America. And we also want to include the great leadership of Larry Itliong and Philip Vera Cruz and the Agricultural Workers Organizing Committee, and talk about the Delano Grape Strike of 1965, which really helped launch the now world-renowned farm labor movement in California. So I thought that was some of the beauty of that movement was the collaboration and the coalition spirit of Latinos working side by side with Filipinos and other allies to make it so successful. And so I wanted that story to be told. I wanted our manongs and our manangs who led with courage and bravery and sacrifice in a time when it was uncertain what they would be able to achieve. I wanted them to be remembered and celebrated for their great contributions. And I wanted our young Filipinos in the community and young Californians everywhere to be able to open up a history book and read with pride about that chapter in history and all the great things the Filipino American community has done to build California. So that bill was passed and signed in 2013 in October, which was Filipino American History Month. So it was very exciting and appropriate. And now we're implementing the bill. So we're developing the frameworks and the curriculum for what will be taught to
does
our
that
young
mean
people.
does that mean the state will actually come up with another subject that will specifically talk about the Filipino contributions for the state? Am I correct?
It will be right now. There was already a requirement before my bill that the California farm labor movement be taught and that Cesar Chavez be discussed. And so now it's also required that the Filipino American contribution to that movement be taught and discussed. So that is required, and the details of what will be included, some of the things I mentioned, Larry Itliong, Philip Vera Cruz, Delano Grape Strike, AWOC, that will be put together into the new curriculum that will be used by teachers when teaching in their classrooms to the students.
And in terms of economics, I was just wondering, do you have anything in particular that is actually pushing for Filipino American businesses here in California?
We've been very supportive of our small business community in particular, and business community in general. I think that when our businesses succeed and create a strong and vibrant economic climate, our workers can succeed and Californians can succeed, and revenue is generated for services that are very important, like our public schools and our healthcare. And so one of the things that was really important to me was to provide the proper supports for some of our small businesses, including Filipino American businesses, not limited only to Filipino Americans, through our small business development centers, which have been the funding for which had been removed in the past. And so I wanted to reintroduce that funding from the state, so that it can draw down the federal match. It's a dollar for dollar match from the federal government. And I introduced a bill last year which would have provided additional millions of dollars to fund our SBDCs and also bring down the federal match. And that bill got incorporated into the budget, so that after years of having zero funding for our small business development centers, they got $2 million from the state, and then another $2 million from the federal government. So $4 million more last year for our small business development centers that they wouldn't have otherwise got. It provides technical assistance for small business owners, and it also provides information on access to capital as businesses seek to expand or entrepreneurs seek to start a new business. So that was one area where we really tried to make a difference for small business owners, including Filipinos.
Do you have
Yes,
any?
yeah, along that line. In fact, that is one of the challenges that the small business owners are facing right now, is the access to capital. There's less funding, there is no support from the state because of the budget cut. And I think that is a very good initiative right now.
Thank you.
And I hope that will be realized sooner.
Yeah. I mean, last year we wanted to make progress and recommit to funding this important program, small business development centers, and now we hope to maintain and grow that investment in our small business sector. Small businesses is going to be where 80% of new jobs are created. A majority of the jobs in California are already from our small business community. So very important community in California that we need to continue to support. To your point about access to capital, I had met with many business owners in the district who said exactly what you have just stated, that we need access to capital, and we're not getting it. The markets are tight and we're not able to access it. And then I talked to a lot of the lenders, banks and others, who said we have more capital than we can get rid of, and we just need to get it out the door. And I said something's not fitting here. Our business owners need capital, and you're saying you're trying to give it away. So let's get everyone in the same room. And I hosted a access to capital event where we had banks and other lenders and capital providers in the same room with small businesses from all over the district, where you could meet with the different lenders if you were a small business and actually get pre-qualified for capital, for a loan or whatever the product it was, right then and there, and just connecting folks who didn't seem to know where the other person was and how to connect was very helpful, and I think it really helped a lot of the small businesses. So we're going to do that again this year.
And probably shifting to another topic before we actually end this interview, is that family. You are a person who is actually very closely knit, which is very much of a Filipino thing, And I just wanted you to share to us and to our audience, how was it? Because I believe you have traveled to the Philippines and actually visited Tacloban together with your son, who I believe is also have an interesting name. Can you share that to us?
Yes, sure. So I'm married with 3 kids.
Okay.
3 beautiful kids. My oldest is Reina. She's 15. I actually went to the Philippines with Reina, she the oldest, and then my middle one is Ileana. She's 9, and then I have a son who's 6, and his name is Andres. And he is named after Andres Bonifacio, our Philippine national hero, and my middle name is actually Andres as well. So I'm Robert Andres Bonta. My mom named me after Andres, and then I passed it down to my son. And my mom lives next door to me. I see my father when I'm in Sacramento, and so family and extended family, very important to me, and had a really special opportunity to go to the Philippines and bring my oldest daughter, Reina, for the first time, and she was in Tacloban with us, and helping with the rebuild effort and visiting the Philippines, where I was born, where my mother is from, for the first time, and she found it very special and very moving to be there. And she's a very competitive soccer player, and she started her own nonprofit program called The Force of Soccer that brings gently used soccer equipment to places where young girls and boys are in poverty and don't have the access to equipment. So she brought this equipment to a girls team in Metro Manila and delivered it to them and played soccer with them, and saw their eyes just get as wide as saucers when they received the equipment and had a chance to have a pair of cleats for the first time and uniforms and shin guards. So it was very special.
Thank you so much for your time. And then probably any message to our viewers?
Yes, I'm honored to be the first Filipino American elected to the California State Legislature. I hope that soon I won't be the only one, and that we will continue to empower our community.
Hopefully.
And that I encourage all of our Filipino American community to work together to continue to empower Filipino Americans in California and throughout the United States.
Okay, thank you
Thank
so
you
much.
so much.
And there you have it. The first Assembly Member of the State of California, Assemblymember Rob Bonta. Thank you so much for joining us in this afternoon's episode together with Assemblymember Rob Bonta. And again, we are hoping that you will be able to join us in another episode of FACC TV.
Once again, join us, and thank you for watching FACC TV.